Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Tennessee Titans have signed free agent safety Quandre Diggs. Adam Schefter reporting it is a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. The 31-year-old three-time Pro Bowler reunites with Jamal Adams, his former teammate in Seattle. As it is game week for the Tennessee Titans, the first preseason game of 2024 coming up Saturday at Nissan Stadium against the San Francisco 49ers. The next time media will be allowed at Titans practice will be coming up on Wednesday at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. The Tennessee Vols secondary took a big hit over the weekend. Defensive back Jordan Thomas will miss the 2024 season with a knee injury, according to a report by VolQuest. The Vols did pick up a commitment from five-star quarterback Faison Brandon on Saturday. The North Carolina native is rated the number one quarterback in the 2026 class on 247 Sports. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome to game week. Kind of. Do we consider it game week, Blaine? Yeah.
It is preseason.
It is preseason.
You kind of threw me off guard there.
It's game week, but
it is. Or is it?
Kind of, like I'm saying, like there is football. Saturday. Yeah. Like I had a doctor's appointment earlier today, and they said, well, how are the Titans looking? I said, guess we'll find out on Saturday. And they said, wait, the season started? I said, well, preseason?
Yeah.
I mean, it counts. There's guys out there working for a job coming up on Saturday night. You'll hear it right here on 104.5 The Zone. We also have about 26 days until Tennessee and Chattanooga get going. But Quandre Diggs is a Tennessee Titan, as he has played in 93 of the last 99 games that he's been in the NFL. Is it bad that is the thing that I'm most excited about with him? The fact that he has been on the field and playing because of the Titans team that has a history of injuries. I just want a guy that can play 17 games.
But you can look at it two different ways. You could say, he's doomed to have an injury. What's the luck of that he will continue to stay healthy? I'm just giving you the other side. I don't want him to get hurt. He's done a phenomenal job of staying healthy. And by the way, people stop comparing him to Jamal Adams. And the reason why I'm going to say this, their games are totally different. Now, if he tried to do what Jamal Adams does, he would be injured too, and probably worse because he's smaller. So, hey, I think it's a good signing, quality player, starter in this league. I'm going to say this, when you watch him, athletically, he doesn't jump off the screen. But I tell you one thing that jumps off the screen, he is always around the ball and making plays, almost like he's a coach on the field. So, I think this is a real positive signing, and maybe, since Jamal maybe can be in a different role than actually as a starter, this guy, to your point, Joe, he's been healthy and been consistent as a starter and not missing games. So with him and Hooker maybe, and you got Jamal and all these three wide receiver sets, a lot of players are going to be defensive back guys are going to be playing a lot. So great addition. And he's in a prove-it year, so because he kind of had a down year for him. But the Seattle Seahawks defense was down, by the way, that whole unit. So he's in a prove it, show that he could still play at a high level, former Pro Bowler. So, I kind of, he's solid. All I could think of, though, was when the Seahawks played the Titans there, a couple years ago?
It was 2021, week 2 in 2021.
Yeah. He had to go tackle old Mr. King there, and then it didn't go so well.
No, stop. I mean, Derek got him literally
he got a little bit of a straight arm.
And then next thing you know, Derek cuts left, and Quandre has to play catch up, and he meets a stiff arm.
Yeah.
At the very end of it. So.
Well, his angle was bad. I think a lot of people don't realize how fast Derek is until you're actually in the game, because he's a long strider and you don't understand how much ground he's covering. And then, so what you used to look at as a player, at least that's what I would do, is if they get 2 steps within 5 yards, that's a 4-5. If they get him more than that, then now, we're going to have to pump the gas because I'm going to be like, hey, this guy is not somebody I want to be in a foot race with. So you got to already do that on your own. If you're not doing the 2 steps within 5 yards, you got to know that the guy's pretty freaking fast. So I think he misjudged that and then had to revert and take a turn right, and then he couldn't catch him and got a little stiff for him. And so, it's funny, but at the same time, everybody's gotten God. So, yeah, quality player, quality leadership, coach on the field, not super athletic, but solid NFL player. So, yeah, and, 1-year deal for a good price. So they're not, holding to, his salary next year or any year like that. And even if they want to sign him to an extension, if he does well, then you'll get him at the right price. So another quality signing by Rand and crew for the price. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And matter of fact,
depth and safety too, by the way.
Well, and that's where one person asked on the F&M Bank chat, which you can get to by watching us on Zone TV, on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch, was Football Fred wanting to know about how you feel about this pickup, because this is another safety it's getting brought in that's going to potentially. Are we thinking that he's going to come in and start? Is he going to be him and Elijah Molden? Like, what would be the thought process of him coming in the week of the first preseason game?
Well, I mean, the first game, no. But potentially, this guy's got, 3 Pro Bowls under his belt. If he learns the defense and catches on and develops chemistry early, it'd be hard to say that he won't be starting, in my opinion. Now, here's a lot of things that dictates my decision on saying that. His salary. What is Molden's salary? What is, Diggs' salary? Because regardless, whatever, even if it's a tie and Molden's been here and hadn't lost the job by any means. So you're just interested to see how they play it out. And some coaches like to play it out, the best man wins, especially in situations like this. Veteran pick up late and, he making $3 million up to $5 million, Diggs. And I think Molden's in his last year of his contract, or his second, third round pick.
He is in the last year of his deal this year.
Deal.
His base salary is $3.1 million.
Oh, his base salary?
His base is $3.1.
Oh,
and his
so
cap hit is $3.3.
So they're around the same. So it could be a battle.
Yeah, and Quandre's can get up to $5 million, but it's around $3 million as well. So it's basically a very similar salary.
Yeah,
for
and
the
it's
two players.
incentives if you play. So that is if he beats out Molden. That's what it tells me. So it's going to be a battle then.
Yeah,
it's going to be a heck of a battle. Best man wins. So yeah. I mean, but more depth there and a good mix of young with veteran leadership too at the same time. Because certain things coaches can coach, but certain things you can't. And it's little nuances of the game that every position has that you can kind of give tips to the other guys at the safety position. So, yeah, worst case scenario, it's a depth piece. No doubt, especially with the injury history to Molden. And, by the way, even Hooker, who always misses 2 or 3 games. So, it's good.
And you can tell it's game week. We've got more people that are hopping in the F&M Bank chat. We've got people on the phone lines as well, 615-737-1045. Let's head out to Kentucky. Sean, welcome, man. What's going on, man?
Hey, man. Afternoon, everybody. Hey, Hitman. Love to see you play in the past, man. It was very inspirational.
Appreciate it.
My question to you as a former player, what is a feeling within the locker room of I can't think the dude's name, just got hit with PED possibility. But what would the locker room mentality be with something like that, knowing that he has possibly hurt the team? And I know everybody has their own feelings about things of this nature, but just your personal aspect from being a former player. Thank you, guys. I'll listen to you offline.
Thank you. He's thinking of Arden Key.
Right. Yeah. Arden Key. No, I knew exactly what he was talking about there. It's kind of interesting because most of the guys that I play with, there was never really an issue if a guy got suspended for something one time. The issue amongst the players, because we're all in this brotherhood, right? We protect our brothers. We're all in this together. Okay, one time somebody can make a mistake. But then when it goes 2 or 3 times the same thing, then you go, uh-oh. I can remember, I'm going to say this to the late, great Josh Evans, who was a really fascinating, tough son of a gun player. I asked him, can he stop smoking weed, bro? You hurting our team. Because he got suspended like 3 times. He looked me dead in the face and said, I don't think I can. And when he said that to me, I really looked at him going, dang. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I don't think it's going to work out.
I didn't even question him. I actually put my arm on him and said, "All right, man, thanks." He was, at least he was honest. He's like,
at least he was honest with you.
He's like, "Nah, man, I don't think I can."
Yeah. At least he was honest.
I don't think I can. I was like, "Come on, man, for real?"
No,
he's like, "Nah, right. Man, I don't know. You want to come down here and play in the trenches?" I said, "Nope." So I was cool with it then. I mean, at the 3 times. So, but after one time, I was still like, "Dang, come on, man. You're one of our quicker D tackles. You cause a problem with your quickness, and people got to make decisions real quick." And he was a really good player. So, so sometimes it kind of can get on some guys' nerves individually. But what you think about also is, he's also hurting his own self. So at the same time, you really don't have to have thorough conversations with a player. It's going to be on him anyway, regardless. So all you can do is support him when he comes back and keep it moving. But yeah, it hurts the team, but there's nothing you can do. It's no different than if a player held out, right? What can you do? No. That's his own personal decision. You stay out of people's personal business. That's kind of how it works. He's got to do what's best for him and his family.
615-737-1045. Dr. Detroit, welcome in.
Love you guys to death, man. Y'all got a great thing going on. I appreciate it and blessed every time I get a chance to come out and talk to you guys.
Thanks, bro.
I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I speak from my heart, man. I've been Dr. Detroit for 29 years. Believe me, I need to get the respect where respect's earned. And there's a certain show that don't do that, but we ain't going to call nobody out because God didn't make me a rude person. But anyway, once again, I am at the Slaughterhouse. I'm about to have a conversation with the owner, Bob, Everything Michigan. But, hey, we want Titan fans to come down. We're renting a shuttle bus and a private driver, and we want Titan fans to go up to the Motor City and see the rebound of this once beautiful city come back and revive themselves. And let me tell you this, Nashvillians from northern Alabama and southern Kentucky, I spare the moment. Friday, while I was sitting in the Slaughterhouse, the executive producer of Ford Field called me and said, "Doc, we heard you're bringing Titan fans with you as well. We're really excited about it." So if that don't tell you that I'm praised and blessed to be born and raised off of Penderburg Drive in West Nashville and moved to Brentwood on Halloween Day in 1969. I'm blessed to have NFL in my hometown. I'm blessed to have NHL in our hometown. And for that gentleman, the executive producer of Ford Field, calling me and telling me that he's excited that I'm bringing Titan fans with my Lion fans, dude, it gave me chill bumps, and I started crying like a young man again. It just flattered the heck out of me. So how excited is that for you guys?
No, and thanks for that phone call, man. No, look, that game is in Detroit itself is kind of rebounding because that city has obviously been in the crapper for a long time, but they have like a ton of small business owners that have started to rebuild that city as a whole. And so what's happened, because again, everything was so cheap in Detroit because nobody wanted to move there. And so for a period of time, so many people started buying up land and they started opening up like new local businesses and all that sort of stuff in Detroit. So yeah, so Titans will be heading up to Detroit on October 27th to be taking on Amon-Ra St. Brown and the Lions, seeing if they can make it back to the championship.
Yeah, go.
In golf, trying to make it back to the NFC Championship. Titans just want to make the playoffs. They had 2 practices over the weekends. They added Quandre Diggs, and some players on the field practicing, some still kind of hanging on the sidelines, not getting on the field just yet. What we're going to do is we're going to be joined by John Glennon here in just a little bit, as he has been covering the team for the Nashville Post, and he was out there on Saturday looking at how practice is going, getting you caught up over what happened over the weekend, as he is the hitman Blaine Bishop. I'm Joe Hunk, brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for European car repair needs now for 24 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX. Or you can just visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said you.
RK Dub, as well as the Buck Rising Show, be broadcasting live from training camp coming up on Wednesday and Thursday, as the team will be back on the field. Then they were also on the field this past weekend, and John Glennon is great enough and good enough to hop in with us to talk about some of the things that have been going on in practice. Before, John, we hit you with that, though, was a question about Quandre Diggs, the signing of him. It came down yesterday, and so it's kind of almost like this defense trying to solidify itself. What are you feeling about this deal that the Titans made?
I like it. I think it's a very good move. I still think even when they signed Jamal Adams, a few weeks ago to kind of bolster that safety position, to me there were still some question marks at it, and each of the kind of the top three guys had a little bit of question mark. Amani Hooker, talented guy, a smart guy, but he's missed 17 games over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. You look at Elijah Molden, another smart guy, but still kind of relatively inexperienced at safety. He played more nickel cornerback throughout his career. And then, as I just mentioned, Jamal Adams, obviously a guy who played at a high level for a while, but hasn't been at that high level in a bit and has really been impacted by injury, only 10 games over the last 2 years. So you were still kind of wondering, there are an awful lot of question marks there. And what I like about Diggs is he answers a lot of those questions. The talent level, a three-time Pro Bowler, 2020 through 22, very reliable. I think he started all 67 games over the last 4 years in Seattle. Experience, as I mentioned. And I think really he's played a ton at free safety, which is the other three guys we talked about earlier. None of them played a lot of free safety. I think Amani Hooker probably played the most. But Diggs averaged about 1,000 snaps each of the last 4 years at free safety, and I think that really is going to help him. Gives the Titans a guy with a little bit more room to move out there, a little bit more range to him. So I like it. I think it's a good signing, really strengthens the spot.
Well, then you talked about injuries and players missing some time. Saturday, Coach Callahan talked about D-Hop's injury. I know that we've heard anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. I know that he talked about it. The timetables kind of vary on that. How are you feeling now about this wide receiver group with Hop going down?
Yeah, tough situation there, because for D-Hop, as experienced and talented as he is, this is still a new offense for him, and he was learning just like all the other players are out there. So it's hurts for him, probably less so for a veteran because he's seen a number of different systems over the years, and he's probably has more ability to change than and adapt than some of the young guys who haven't seen a lot. But nonetheless, that's going to hurt him. But I think if you're a guy like Treylon Burks, could you have asked for a better opportunity? And he talked about this. He loves DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously doesn't want to see D-Hop go down. But now he has to take advantage of these first-team reps that he is getting, for the next, say, month or whatever it may be. He's got to show the coaching staff, the same coaching staff and general manager that went out and signed a couple receivers while Treylon Burks was here. He's now got the opportunity to say, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still a first-round draft pick with a lot of talent. Give me some chances, give me some opportunities, and now he's going to get those on the first team now that D-Hop is going to be out. So I think this is a real great opportunity for Treylon Burks to take advantage of the situation.
John Glennon joined us from the Nashville Post here on 104.5 The Zone.
Well, JG, thanks for coming on. You talked about Treylon Burks. Do you think your prediction that he will take advantage of this opportunity while D-Hop is injured?
It's hard to say, Blaine, because this is not the first time. We can remember going into last year, Treylon Burks got all kinds of raves, for the condition that he came in, for, the fact that he stuck around Nashville all off season and really put himself in prime condition, and it's not the first time, again, that he has looked good in training camp and has shown, the natural talent that he has. So, whereas, last year you're like, okay, yeah, this is definitely going to be the year for Treylon. I think he has turned it around. I see good things going to happen for him, we all thought that last year, and it didn't really happen because of injuries and because of inconsistency. So it's hard to forecast for him. The talent is there, and yesterday, certainly Brian Callahan was pumping him up for the condition of these in. He's stronger, he's faster than he has been. And again, the talent is there, but until he proves it, there's going to be doubts just because we haven't seen Traylon Burks get it done during those first 2 years.
We're with John Glennon from the Nashville Post. Got to talk about MPF. He was at practice. How did he look? How does the conditioning? Does he look like he's going to be the guy that he has to be, and that is the starting right tackle?
Yeah, I think I certainly get the sense they're going to give him every opportunity to be the guy, and it makes sense. As a rookie, he started 16 games there, and not saying that it was a great season for NPF, but have to factor in again, he was a rookie and he was moving from left tackle to right tackle as a rookie, so that factors into the equation too. And then certainly his sophomore or second season in the NFL was almost a wash just because of the injury and the suspension as well. But the talent is there. He's a stronger guy. He's a little bigger than he was in the past. And when you compare, just kind of his pedigree and his resume to some of the other guys that are getting, some of the looks at right tackle, I think it's pretty clear that Nicholas Petit-Frere is a little bit head and shoulders above the crowd in that regard. Now he has to prove it because, as we know, he didn't have the opportunity to show anything to this new coaching staff all off season because of the knee injury, which followed the shoulder injury. So he has to step in there now and show them, hey, yeah, I am the guy. I think they want to give him that shot. I think certainly, Bill and Brian Callahan must have liked what they at least saw on tape of him, during last year and the year before. He's going to get that chance, and he certainly seems like a very much more, enthusiastic, ready to dive in there, ready to go. He seems like one of the guys that seems to be charged up by the new atmosphere and new coaching staff. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. Coming up in the preseason games, we'll get a real sense of how he's progressing.
Well, let's stay with the offensive line. Latham, how does he look going against speed? He has so much power. I'm sure he's doing at least an adequate job with power. But how is he matched up with some of the speed guys there, starting with Key, even at practice?
Yeah, he's done pretty well. Certainly, I think we all remember last year in training camp when Arden Key looked like Lawrence Taylor out there. And unfortunately, as the season began and progressed, we realized that the reason Arden Key looked like Lawrence Taylor was because he was going up against Andre Dillard quite a bit in practice. So it certainly has not been that kind of a situation. I think J.C. Latham has held up pretty well. I think, we are seeing a fair bit of pressure on quarterbacks, but the way I've seen it, most of the vast majority of that pressure has come on the other side of the line. And again, that's where the starting spots aren't nailed down. That's where, Nicholas Petit-Frere was absent until just a few days ago. So kind of understandable that there's a little bit more, of a guessing game right now on the right side. But so far, I think J.C. Latham has certainly held his own. And for fans who might be concerned, about making that switch from right to left tackle and the speed he's going to go against, so far, there are no indications that the Titans should be very, very worried that he's not going to be able to make that transition successfully. I think it's been good so far.
As we're joined, John Glennon from the Nashville Post hopping on with us to kind of recap what happened over the weekend for the Titans. The run game. We keep getting a lot of questions in the F&M Bank chat about Pollard, about Tajay Spears, how they're being utilized and things like that. So what were you seeing over the week, especially on Saturday, from those two running backs?
I think, to me, the running game in general has improved noticeably as camp has gone on. I thought in the first few days the defense really had the better of the offense. when it came to that battle of the trenches. But more recently, and I think in particular, Pollard seems to be getting a large quantity of carries. And you're seeing more holes now. You're seeing running backs pop out the other side, whereas you rarely saw that at first. So I think that's a good sign, and I'm really interested in watching how Brian Callahan wants to use these guys, not only in the running game, but in the passing attack too. He had so much success with Joe Mixon in Cincinnati as both a running back and a pass catcher. And really, you look at both Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, and both of them have those same kinds of characteristics. Both good pass catchers, and they can run the ball as well. The rotation should keep them fresh. So I like the potential there. And again, I think it's the running game has looked better and better as camp has progressed, which is a good sign.
Look, we continue to hear it's a competition, and it may be even asinine to ask the question. Malik Willis, Mason Rudolph, which one is performing well or better right now?
I think they've both looked pretty good out there. My way of thinking, and that's not necessarily to say it's the way the Titans are thinking, is this: like Malik Willis was on the roster here. He obviously finished as the number 2 quarterback last year behind Will Levis. So what did the Titans do in the offseason? They didn't say, okay, we want to move forward with Will Levis and Malik Willis. They went out and signed a veteran quarterback in Mason Rudolph. So to me, that in itself kind of gives you an indication that Mason Rudolph probably has a pretty significant leg up in the number 2 quarterback competition. And he has done nothing, and Brian Callahan talked about this over the weekend too. Mason Rudolph has done nothing to, offer up any doubt that he is playing pretty well and should be able to hold on to that number 2 position. I think, I read Jim Wyatt's story this morning. He tracks all the quarterback numbers and has, over an 80% completion rate so far in practice, which is certainly very good. And we have to remember too that Rudolph, played probably the best football of his career at the end of last year. Won 3 games, pushed the Steelers into the playoffs. So to me, it's not so much a competition at number 2. I think Mason Rudolph, unless he absolutely falls apart, is going to be number 2. To me, the question is, does Malik Willis play well enough that the Titans want to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster? I think that's the biggest question, in my opinion, anyway. And he's playing very well now. I think we've seen a better Malik Willis than we've seen in years past. And I think Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator, talked the other day about how he's more settled in the pocket. One thing he has noticed is that when Malik drops back, whether it's 5 steps, 7 steps, or whatever, instead of taking that first step right back up into pressure, he is staying at that depth, and he still has certainly the arm strength, to get the ball to his receiver. So he's been better. There's no doubt about it. But to me, I don't think there's a huge competition. Again, unless Mason Rudolph completely falls apart, I think he's number 2. And my thought is Malik good enough to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster or not? That's the question he has to answer, in my opinion.
John Glennon hopping down and talking to us about Titans practice over the past 2 days as they practice on Saturday and Sunday here on 104.5 The Zone.
Well, John, you talked about the backup quarterbacks. How is Will Levis going into his second season with a new offense? How is he progressing? How is he looking? Is he starting to take command of the offense? Where is he at from where he started in OTAs to the beginning of the training camp? Kind of take us through the timeline of what you've seen from him overall.
Yeah, I think 2 of the traits that we've known almost from the day the Titans drafted Will Levis about him are his enthusiasm, sort of the willingness to work hard, and his intelligence too. He's a very quick learner. I think you get the sense from both Will and the coaching staff that he has picked things up very quickly, that he is now the guy offering advice and instruction to teammates on where you need to be here and what you need to do here. We know his leadership skills are great. I think some of the changes, some of the tweaks he's made during the off season in terms of his base are probably going to pay off in the accuracy, and I think that's probably the one category, accuracy, completion percentage, that Will Levis needs to make the most strides this year. And to me, I think one of the ways he'll do that is probably by not taking quite as many deep shots as he has before. Now, I know Will Levis has a cannon of an arm, and they have to use it because that is an asset, certainly for the Titans from time to time. But I don't think he can take quite as many deep shots as in the past, because I think the Titans need to move the ball a little bit more consistently, move the chains, get first downs more consistently. So I think maybe you'll see a few more check downs from Will Levis this year. As much as he enjoys making the big play and using that powerful arm, maybe concentrate on moving the chains, increasing that completion percentage, and that in turn results in more productivity offensively.
Well, you talk about Spears and Pollard at running back. We were talking off air about the other running backs, Haskins, Chestnut, Small. I mean, how many running backs do you think they're going to keep, and who may get X'd out?
Yeah, tough category, and certainly, boy, on the very first day of training camp, or just within a couple of days, Dylan Johnson, who I was kind of looking forward to getting a look at after he'd been so productive in college. He was gone. He was X'd out, so no longer in the equation there. But I think Hassan Haskins has done some nice things. We've seen him break a few runs. He's not a speed guy, but we know he can excel on special teams, and we know he has some power to his game too. So I think maybe if you're looking for a tentative number 3 right now behind the Spears-Pollard combination, I think maybe Haskins has the edge over Julius Chestnut. Jabari Small, has certainly made his presence felt as well. I think he's had some nice runs from time to time. Again, it's a little more difficult to tell, with when Jamari Small is going against the number 3 guys and so forth. You always have to keep that in mind when you're seeing some of the lower tier guys and they're playing against lower tier competition, of course. But those are some of the other guys that I'm looking forward to seeing in the preseason against San Francisco and against Seattle as well. Guys that shine a little bit. It seems like every year we have a guy, certainly a running back, who shines a little bit in some of these preseason games, and the hype train starts rolling, and sometimes they make the team too. So one of these guys, I think, is certainly going to have to emerge, but behind the top 2.
I guess last question. I know you just talk about maybe Saturday or some other practice. Some guys that kind of not big names, but guys that are making themselves known. Give us one player on offense, one on defense. You kind of keeping your eyes out like, hey, man, we need to keep watching this guy. This guy may have an outside shot of not making a roster, being on the practice squad.
Let's see here. I've seen some good things from an undrafted free agent, Titans tight end, David Martin Robinson. He's the guy from Temple.
I like him.
Played I think he played like maybe 6 years in college. And when he was at Temple, he also got one of the single-digit jerseys at Temple, which they don't just give out to anybody. You have to be kind of the exemplary player, a guy off and on the field to get that single-digit jersey. So he's been a guy that has caught some passes. He's a guy that's big enough and physical enough to block as well. So, he might be a guy that we see on the practice squad as a tight end. And I'm looking at defensively. I know this name has certainly popped up, but it's certainly again worth stressing. I think Gabe Judy-Lally at cornerback, maybe not making quite as many plays as he did right at the start of training camp and during the off season, but he is the kind of guy that seems to fit this Denard Wilson scheme pretty well. He's an aggressive guy. He's been pretty sticky so far, and there's a lot of names ahead of him at cornerback. Obviously since the Titans added Awuzie and Snead and free agency, that bumped guys further down the chain. But I certainly would not be surprised to see him be a practice squad guy if he can't make the 53.
John, I know that printable roster that I know that you probably have in your hand right now has over 100 names on it, and you had to pick out one, and I mean one specifically that Blaine has been talking about for the last 30 minutes before the show started. When you mentioned the tight end. That tight end you mentioned was the one that Blaine has been talking about.
Really?
For
Off air, though.
Yeah,
off air. Never on air,
off
though.
Air. And the moment you said his name, I just started laughing because we just researched him for 30 minutes because Blaine kept talking about him off the air.
All right. Great minds, Blaine.
I mean,
Great minds
seriously.
think alike, man. Now I'm cum laude from Virginia.
Yeah.
John,
Right. But I agree with you. He's got the size. He's got what would appear to be pretty good hands, and from that resume and that pedigree that he's got that really strong work ethic. And there are spots to be had. Whether it ends up on the 53 or on the practice squad, I think at tight end. So he's made an impression.
Yeah,
absolutely,
Good
John.
stuff.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it. I know that you're going to be out there again this week, so thank you so much for all that coverage.
Sounds good. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All right,
JG.
have a good one. Phantom First Hour strikes again. You've talked about him for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it comes to fruition. I don't know. Then he brought up
The one player.
And we
I don't
talked
know,
about
man.
Gabe Judy Lawley, too.
Yes.
We talked about him,
Yeah,
too.
Yes.
you mentioned him, Marie
You
did,
mentioned-
and I was like, oh yeah, I just want to see one more thing to make sure on the deep balls. But he's kind of, I think he's for sure going to be on the practice squad. It's just a matter of somebody else picks him up. It becomes a numbers game. He may make the back end of the roster there, Jolly.
The moment that we think we have the answers, Blaine changes the question. I'll explain when we come back on 104.5 The Zone.
Redid that. Hey, this is Blaine Bishop, and I want to know if you have heard about peptides. And peptides are shaking up the fitness world. There are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies. As we age, they start to decline. And at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. And maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake in the evenings when you get home from work. Well, if you have the thought that this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, help with recovery between workouts, and more. And peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are safe, naturally occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals, a natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance, just like I did. So feel better from the inside out. So go to edgepeptide.com, or you can just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
about 10 minutes from right now, we will be joined by former Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff as he is in town for a seminar that we will tell you a little bit more with Sumer Sports, as well as he's going to be joined by Clement as they've got a very interesting program that they have created that helps college football teams, and they're wanting to help NFL football teams use analytics to help determining their best players that they can put on the field in their best situations. I am probably explaining that horribly, and so we will let them do this.
None of us understand analytics in detail, so I'm interested in this conversation to see how much this can actually help build your rosters. In college and pros. So,
absolutely. Cool. And the program is extremely interesting. I think they're going to bring it in as well for us to see, but there's an event going on over at the Renaissance Hotel for the next 3 days that they are going to be presenting this program that can help college football teams come up with some ideas of which they can be better and have their programs be in better situations, as we are now. Some teams are only about 19 days from week 0 getting going.
Well, speaking of that, I don't think Hypo needs help with quarterbacks.
No,
I don't think he's done a pretty good job with that one.
No, Nico's good every single year, right? Like, he gets a player. You think that the best player in the country is not going to then choose to go to Tennessee because they may have to sit behind another player. And no, they just come there. No, we're good. We're good. They just keep getting added. Titans would be cool to have that kind of luck. That'd be kind of fun. 615-737-1045.
Get another quarterback every 2 years. I don't know if that's good in the pros.
No, but at least having somebody behind that you could go, all right, if our guy goes down, at least, because again, it happens. I think there's only 3 or 4 teams last year that didn't have their starting quarterback miss at least one game. So the backup quarterback is extremely important, especially for this. Let's just stay here in Nashville. Bobby, welcome in. How's it going?
Yeah. All right. What we really need to look out for this year, I'm looking for a new AFC team anyway. My team really sucks, but I just moved here from Carolina.
Yours is bad.
Now we understand.
Yep. Blaine was looking at me like, I wonder what team he's talking about. And then once you answered that question, we knew what you were saying.
It's okay.
They're rebuilding. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
They are, man. What can we do for you today, bro?
Well, what really should we be looking out for with the Titans? I mean, new to the area.
Yeah, I got you. So you're asking, what should you be looking out for with this team as you're somebody that's coming in and watching this team for the first time up close?
Yeah.
Got you. All right, well, first off, Bobby, we welcome in, man. We appreciate it, bro. Thank you so much,
to
man.
the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So for somebody like that, because we do have a lot of people moving in, what should these new people that are coming to Nashville should be looking for?
Well, first and foremost, I would say with the new coach, Callahan, who's an offensive guy, so you're looking for the development, high-scoring offense with Will Levis, see if he can be the guy, the franchise quarterback. We've seen enough of him to say that he could be a solid quarterback, but can he be the guy knowing he is the guy with that kind of pressure? Then also, offensive line, kind of pay attention to that. That's been a history over the last couple of years. Hadn't done so well, had some injuries there as well. So make sure that happens. But you want to see some explosiveness. You want to see what's going on at the wide receivers, running backs, and then they got some get after dudes on defense. So, and led by Jeffrey Simmons and crew. So, yeah, man, I think this is going to be a fun and potentially a really good team. Just how quickly can it all come together? Sooner than later, we're hoping, and then squeak into the playoffs. And I bet this will be a team nobody wants to face because they're going to run and throw, and they're going to get after it at defense. They're going to get after them.
Bobby, I'm just going to tell you, the Titans are known for one thing and one thing alone, and that's scoring 30 points every single football game.
That is not true. But hopefully now that will happen, at least more often than not.
It's going to happen every game this year.
Yeah,
30 points.
But long as you're getting W's, it doesn't matter. But even if you score 30 points, guess what happens as a fan? You're sitting there watching going, dang, we almost got them. We just, maybe we got to do a little more ball controlling. You start finding ways of saying, okay, 30 points is great and cool, it's fun, but now I want to make sure we get the wins with them.
Yep, there's between 30 points every single game and coming out of the half with a totally different game plan and not going 3 and out 7 times in a row. Those are the two things that the Titans are not known for. and you will not see any of that this year at Nissan Stadium.
Oh, man.
God, I hope.
Oh, my. I didn't know you were going to give it a sense of humor there on the answer. Like, I was all serious.
Oh, please, I hope. I hope both of those things are true come December.
They're fun to watch, and you're getting some wins at the same time, man. So, and getting to see, development of a quarterback, man. So, it's going to be pretty cool and interesting. I'm hoping that it goes in the right direction, that's for sure.
Thomas Dimitroff, as well as Sean Clement of Sumer Sports, coming up next here on 104.5 The Zone.
So many people trust Two Rivers Ford. Football players, working moms, business owners. Why? Because Two Rivers Ford has been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most
Second hour, final hour, best hour here on 104.5 The Zone, as we've got 59 minutes until 3HL comes on here on 104.5 The Zone, as he is the hitman Blaine Bishop. I'm Joe Hunk, brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And we are joined in studio now by a familiar name that you may know. He's the former general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. That is Thomas Dimitroff, as he is now working with Sumer Sports, as is Sean Clement, who is here. And you guys
working with
what is this relationship?
Well, there's a lot going on here. But first of all, I'm happy to be here in one of the coolest cities in the country, right?
Yeah,
I come in with mohawks. I come in with cool stuff. Bars right around the area.
Yeah.
Yes. You're one to talk about hair.
Studio, man, so we make sure we're right here. What happened?
I said he's one to talk about hair.
Right.
Like literally,
Exactly.
You've had like the coolest hair in the NFL for like 15 years.
If I did what you did, I could pull it off, I think. I'll just put a little bit of this and that.
But see, I can't do that. That's the reason why I did this, is I'd love that style. I just can't do it. And now you guys are here for, was the NCAA Symposium? What is this exactly?
Football recruiting symposium.
This is Sean Clement. Yes. He's the right hand man. Analytics, kind of explain what you do.
Yeah, the nerd half of our football operations here on analytics.
Gotta have it.
Just trying to blend a little bit of objectivity in with the subjective.
And a West Point guy who flew Blackhawks, like I was saying. This guy's a military guy. He's got a great mind. We're excited about having him.
Yeah, I hear we both have the same kind of neck.
You have the same. You did yours by hitting people in football games.
Well, in Atlanta, by the way, when I knocked myself out in the fourth quarter there and messed up my neck, there you had neck surgery, up in helicopters and everything. Right?
That's how I ended up in football analytics. That's a long story. I know we don't have time for it, but yeah, it's
we have an hour.
It's just had to make a career change. Let's just say, and so that's how I got into football analytics.
Yeah, we both did. See, so we both
Yes,
kind of pivoted and went in a different direction.
Yes, sir.
So how does this work? Like exactly, because you guys are here and there's like a program that you both have created that is trying to help football teams. Like, how long is this program who created the program first off? Like, what's the team like?
So we started about 3 years ago. A guy named Paul Tudor Jones, famous macro trader, really, really strong in the industry, was interested in creating a football data analytics company. He was handshake away with Wayne Huizenga to buy the Dolphins. Very fascinated football man in the business world. We started this 3 years ago with 3 of us. We are now at 40 data scientists and engineers strong. We've also, most recently over the last year, hired 15 player personnel men from the NFL. We have 5 former general managers on our staff and the rest personnel men. So we're creating our own IP and our own grading system that we are disseminating to teams that are interested in working with us, whether it's on the NFL side or whether it's on the NCAA side. So that is our B2B business, which is really, really focused on roster management, roster optimization, making the best decisions with the draft versus free agency.
So how does it work? Because again, I know we're going to start getting into like the analytics, the data points and all that sort of stuff. How do you guys take your crew and determine the data points for everything?
There's all sorts of data out there on all these players, right? Like you talk about traditional box score statistics. We can contextualize those to say like, a touchdown's not just a touchdown. It matters what was the game state like. Was this on first down? Was it on second down? Third down? You can start using external data sources. We can start using tracking data and try and really say like, okay, based on how all 22 of these players are moving on the field at the same time, what was the difficulty of this play? How much credit goes to this player? And, a lot of the times we're not telling somebody like Thomas something he doesn't know, right? Where we're saying like, hey, player A is better than player B. But what we can say is like, he is this much better. Like this is the exact percentage better. This is, what that translates over into cost or into opportunity cost. So then, someone in Thomas's shoes can start saying like, okay, when I want to plan my roster out, whether it's from an identity perspective or from a cost perspective, or you're looking at your division and trying to see how you stack up, how do you make those decisions with the most amount of context possible?
We have totally just landmined Thomas Dimitroff in this.
The chair went down. Well, see, I like my chair low, but now you look like super low. Like,
if you're watching on Zone TV, we got to get.
Sorry about that. There you go.
Now
you're right in height.
I got my prop seat.
That was funny why he was talking to, by the way.
We have Sean being so serious, and then Thomas is sitting here and he's trying to find like a booster because the seat keeps dropping.
Yeah. He's trying to see if I'll crack during my answer. He's messing with me.
Yeah, that was a great job. And this is kind of off the cuff, so I could catch you guys off, guard a little bit. Let's just take L'Jarius Sneed. I was seeing that he wasn't even ranked in the top 10. I don't even think he was a top 100 player when the players do their little list, which was kind of fascinating. He wasn't on there. But, kind of take us through what the metrics were for him as a individual player, and then statistically what he looked like from a coach's perspective or GM perspective, and then how you bridge those two together to come up with how much better a player is, because I think he is a top 10 cornerback, but the numbers don't say it, I guess, because nobody's saying that.
Well, so let me just start, and then I'll toss it over to Sean on this. Remember, what we're doing at Sumer Sports is we come to the table with a subjective analysis with all of we have over 500 years experience within our staff.
Wow.
I mean, you see some of these names here, legits, right? Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, I would love to have John Robinson here because he's in town, but that's not something we have right now. Okay. The reality is we have some really, really smart football people that are evaluating for us subjectively. And then we fold in, of course, the very, very intelligent elements of the analytics, the objective side. So coming to the table with both line items, so to speak, if you're looking at it that way. And we create a much more, in my mind, a much more robust evaluation on a player versus just subjective. We're pulling in the really, really detailed advanced analytics, which I'll toss over to you on that.
Yeah, when you talk about someone like Sneed, one of the tricky things about trying to fix your coverage unit is, and it's the same thing with offensive line. You have a bunch of these weak link systems, right? And so you can bring in somebody like Sneed, and even if, given his age and where he's at in his career trajectory, even if he's only above average, that's what you need. But you need multiple of those guys. And so when we start talking with some of our client teams about hey, how can I turn my defense around? How can I turn my coverage unit around? I think with Brian Callahan coming into the Titans, they are probably going to take a page out of the Bengals notebook, and they're going to take multiple swings at guys who they think are good enough so that they can build a well-rounded coverage unit instead of over-investing in one player, because that just doesn't help you in the coverage unit.
Now, how much has analytics, GM Dimitroff, I guess kind of taken over, or how much influence has it in the actual meetings when you're in the scouting meetings talking about players?
It's a really big thing. Everyone in football understands the evolution of our game right now, right? You and I came up through the 80s, seeing how things were, and into the 90s. If you're not on board and you're not appropriately utilizing the data that's available, you're being left behind, right? Owners aren't wanting that anymore. They're not wanting the young guy that comes in who's just a so-called football head, right? They're looking for a guy who's really good at analyzing from a football viewpoint, but are also going to supplement appropriately. So this is an augmentation tool that all of this data is doing for people, right? In football. This is not black box in any way. When you can be out there, and we can all be negative about it, right? Those of us who have been around it a long time are like, come on, are we really going to utilize data in that way? If you utilize it appropriately and you use it as a juxtapositioning for some of the decisions, almost every decision you're making, to be able to look at the objective side to whatever you're doing, whether it's acquiring a player like a corner that we're talking about, or whether it's drafting a quarterback, being able to take that data and run it through the algorithms that our really, really intelligent people are doing allows us for another touch point where we're able to say, all right, I know this. Remember, you can go into your owner as a GM, you can go into your head coach. When you come to the table with some sound, solid data, along with being a very good football man, don't get me wrong, you can't be someone that comes in with this just as a so-called nerd. You have to have the entire element about you, but that goes a long way. You can convince a head coach, or you can convince an owner to make a move within the organization when they see the hardcore data, which I think is really, really important as we move forward.
Is that what's changing in the National Football League, where you see the front offices? How much are the decisions now the GM, or is it a collaboration with the coach, or is it a coach-dominant decision? You guys give him the reports, he then make the decision. What has changed or stayed the same there with those kind of decisions?
So normally, even if the head coach has final football say, which is that final linebacker, that final safety on the roster, because someone has to make that decision, Normally in NFL organizations, that head coach and that GM are working side by side on everything. They go to the owner. They both answer to the owner normally, right? Unless you're the Bill Belichick situation or Andy Reid, where someone answers, the GM might answer to the head coach. Normally, you're operating together. You make decisions together, and that's what I'm saying. If you can come to the table with some really convincing information, you don't need to rise up and get all fired up with your head coach. If you're a GM, you can keep it calm. Deliver the message, show them the data, and then talk through it. Most coaches are a lot more open to look at the data that's out there versus just pushing back and saying, this is just a bunch of data and so-called, and I say this lovingly to the nerds of the world, right? We hear it. Again, the guy who was a Blackhawk in the Army for 8 years. He's a adjusted nerd.
Well, coaches are stubborn too. They want to do it their way, no doubt.
No question. But I think criminally underutilized data out there. If you're being smart, and I tell all of my contemporaries in the league that are general managers, you want to parlay this into another contract, 2, 3, or 4, you show your ownership group that you come to the table with that really good football knowledge, and then you're supplementing properly with the data that's available. To me, that's a no-brainer. Then you're showing the owner, I am taking this all into consideration. For the longest time, football guys were overrunning and they were just tossing people aside. It's not that way anymore. The last thing I'll share, I'll use Arthur Blank as an example. Arthur Blank's sons, I think 28 and 32, those are the guys that are reading the third parties and all the data that's out there that we all read. They're paying attention to it. They're not going to be bringing in GMs and head coaches in the next 10 years that don't have a sound understanding of how to utilize data. Not black box.
So they're the ones that are now looking down and saying, "Can you just throw the ball to Kyle Pitts, please?"
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just double
That's
checking.
exactly right.
So is it Thomas Dimitroff as well as Sean Clement from Sumer Sports joining us in studio? They're going to stick around for just a few more minutes as we are talking about not only what they are bringing to the personnel and recruiting symposium that is taking place over at the Renaissance Hotel, but also ways that this can kind of correlate to what we've been talking about with the Titans, because there are now decisions that have to be made over the course of the next 3 weeks. We'll talk more about them as he is the hitman Blaine Bishop. I am Joe Hunk, brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. few more minutes here with former Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff and Sean Clement, who are both from Sumer Sports. Thomas Dimitroff now in his third chair in the room. You're really just testing
super tall
these
guy.
out.
Super tall guy.
I'm really not that high maintenance, but look,
We got some malfunction chairs, man.
Thank you.
That's what happens sometimes.
You're the first person that's ever sat in this many chairs, and they continue to mess up. You started to touch that one. I'm like, please just don't move. Just don't.
It's just like moving up the ladder there in the scouting department, right?
Right.
You sit in a lot of different chairs, man.
Well, make sure that the listeners don't think that all of a sudden I gained 80 pounds since I've been doing nothing. So I'm not. I mean, I'm kind of
in pretty good shape,
there.
man.
I'm okay, but the fact is, it's not like I'm just so heavy I can't keep this chair up.
No, you're not. Well, I mean, I don't know. Can you play offensive line? We may have some openings at some point in time. We definitely did last year for the Titans.
Yeah, so interested to see.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying I know that you love outdoors. You work out a lot. You do a lot of biking, things like that. Like that's continuing, right? Like you still do that?
Yeah, I love it. And I actually drove over here from Atlanta today. I drove up in my Sprinter van. I have a Storyteller Overland, jacked up. I go all over the country in it. I take my bikes with me. In the wintertime, I'm taking my snowboards with me, climbing gear, golf. My wife says, no, I'll meet you out in Seattle. No thanks. I'll just fly out there and meet you there.
Screw the road trip. So wait, are you biking? You golfing here? What are you doing?
Well, I'm trying to find a golf game. If anyone's out there with the best course in town, reach out to the guys here.
Yes.
Because tomorrow or Wednesday, I think I have a little bit of time. But that's honestly what I'm doing.
F&M Bank chat is open so that you can throw those recommendations in as we're going, as you guys are going to be over at the Renaissance Hotel.
Well, I got to start this off because I dreamed to be a GM as a player. Naturally, there's no way I could have done that. But all GMs make mistakes. What would you say? Give us 2 players off the cuff that you go, dang it, I didn't go with my gut. I should have drafted this guy, or we should have signed this guy. Give me a couple guys, offense, defensive guys, that you say, man, that one there, I regret I let slip away.
Well, look, I always look back, and there are so many that you can talk right. This is not an exact science, of course. I look back in 9, in my second year, because I went there in 2008 in Atlanta. In 2009, we draft Pere Jerry from University of Mississippi, a really good defensive tackle, great athlete, et cetera, But we passed up Clay Matthews. I mean, think about that. Now, we passed him up. I mean, he was, and I remember he was mad. I met him after, he's like, are you kidding me, really? And this comes back, I'm going to raise my hand because I was in charge, but ultimately you talk to your coaching staff, he was not a fit. We were a 4-3 team. We weren't a 3-4 team. And yet we should have been smarter about it and said, let's just draft at this point the best defensive player we can. We'll make it work. And we didn't. That was one I for sure made made the wrong choice. And the other one very quickly was after we traded for Julio Jones the next year in 2012, it was the worst draft I ever had in my life. We had no one left on that draft. And this happens, right? You go out there and you sell the farm, so to speak, and I would never do it differently because I love Julio Jones. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know you guys had him here at a different time. Right? Yeah. But we the next year we come back, we don't have a first round, we draft a center, Peter Kahns from University of Wisconsin. Love the kid, but he fizzled very quickly, and that was the start to the year after drafting Julio and spending all of our money and our focus on him. That was a tough year for us in general.
Yeah. In theory, talk a little bit more about this because, we're always trying to educate our listeners about sometimes taking the best player on the board is not always the right choice if he doesn't fit the scheme and system that you're running because he will not then elevate his game and he won't grow and be the player he should be. Because I feel like I know that because I wouldn't become the player I was in this 46 defense that I was running. I was multitasking, all kind of things, really a corner, nickel, safety, linebacker. I mean, there was a lot of different things that I did, but talk about that a little bit and how that kind of goes with the coaches and, trying to sway them on making sure we get the guy fits the scheme and not just an elite talent.
Well, look, everyone always says, a lot of people would argue that it's a need-driven system, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, of course, you want to draft the best player, but you're not going to draft a quarterback or a tight end. If you have the best tight end in the history of the world playing for you at that time, you're not going to draft the best player. It has to, keep it within perspective, right, of where you are. When you're talking about having someone who fits into your system or not fitting into your system, it is complicated. Back to Matthews, right? Do you really invest in that? And all of a sudden you have an outside linebacker, 3-4 outside linebacker who you're trying to find a place for. 2 years from now, that person isn't thriving. that player's not happy because he's in a system that he's playing 30% of the time. We make a mistake. So you really have to be intentional about how you make that decision. If you commit as a team, as a coaching staff, that you're going to do all you can. Look, I'm a huge fan of Dan Quinn. To take Micah Parsons, put him around, move him around, those are big things. But you have to agree to that. That's a big thing. And the other thing, Blaine, which is, as you know, is vital. If you have a coach on your staff, let's just say it's a position coach or a defensive coordinator, and you have a player that he is not for, coaches don't dictate what the personnel does and the draft by the general managers. They don't dictate. But you know that if that coach is over there by the water cooler complaining all the time about this player and you draft him in the first pick, man, you are fighting an uphill battle, or you get rid of that assistant coach, fire his butt, right? And move on, because you have to realize that the team has to be in and you have to be committed to making the best out of that player, whether he fits or kind of fits. I think it's vital that everyone is on board.
One more GM question. It seems like most GMs don't get their second go-round like coaches do. Kind of take us through why that's happened, or will that change?
As you know, there's been some great coaches out there who have gotten a second chance or third chance. We've seen some really good football coaches out there. I'm happy Dan Quinn's getting a chance up at the Commanders, right? We worked together for 6 years over in Atlanta. I have a theory on it. It doesn't mean that it's tried and true, but I do believe that coaches have a personality about them that all the other owners out there know about, whether that's a hardcore coach or whether it's a personable coach. When an owner fires a coach, right, they look to, okay, I want to look at this type of personality. Who's down the list? Oh, here's Brian Callahan. He's a great juxtaposition to Mike Vrabel. So let's bring him in. They're not saying that about the general manager. The general managers aren't known around the league as their style necessarily. They might build the team a certain way, but as far as the personnel and the leadership style, I think there's just a limit on what these owners know about the next wave. They're going to go within their own building, Blaine, or they're going to move on somewhere else and try to find someone else. It's a rare deal that people get a second chance.
Well, and you're somebody that relies so much on analytics and trusts it so much, especially with this system. There's a lot of coaches in the NFL that are just like, hey, look, I don't want to use analytics because I know what I'm looking at when I look on film or what I see at practice. When you guys are talking about this program that you guys are going to be doing the presentation for here coming up in a few hours, how do you go to that person and say, look, this is how it can help you with the coaches that like to just use the eye test?
So I'm going to toss it over to Sean right after this. I'm not going to spend too much time. Look, I mean, the biggest thing for me to go in, and these guys, again, wildly academic and wildly versed at so many levels on building models that will help these teams, help these coaches, help the general managers make better decisions. Ours, again, is roster building. It's not, as I mentioned before, it's not about game time decision making. So by going to these people and stating, and here at the NCAA symposium here, going to the general managers now, right? Going to the general managers and saying, look, we can help you on a subjective side with your NIL, with your portal work, which is, we think, can be very helpful, appropriately, of course. We're not taking over the organization because we have 5 former general managers and think we know everything. We are going to provide where those programs, where the college programs would want us to be involved, and on the NFL side, where the NFL teams want us involved. We'll provide them, and then we'll step back, and then we'll interact with them regularly.
Yeah, the big thing from the analytics side is you're providing context, right? So you have a coach that doesn't necessarily want to use analytics, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But what we would like to be able to provide, them, whether it's personnel decisions or it's roster management decisions, like, look, this is the gap between player A and player B in a quantified way. And so when we start talking about, like, okay, how good is, Simmons as a pass rusher versus the rest of the league? Okay, well, we can specify exactly how much better or worse he is than comparative players. And then so then you can have a really, detailed, intelligent discussion about, like, are we getting, the right amount of performance for the right amount of money, and are we building across the team in a way that maximizes our chances at a division title, or, if you're trying to go after a conference championship on the college side? All of those types of discussions just become much more in-depth when you use analytics. To me, it's like having a second scouting department, but you're just looking at the numbers and providing context. The GM or the head coach, whatever it may be, is still the ultimate decision maker.
So, I was about to say, so with this program, whenever you're down looking at depth chart, for instance, because you're talking about player A versus player B, with here at the Titans, you have that conversation about now Elijah Molden and Quandre Diggs. Your program would be able to say this is the difference between the two types of players, or with what we are now going to be dealing with over the next 3 or 4 weeks is D-Hop is out for 3 to 5 weeks. Who could step in from an analytics standpoint and fill that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're starting to look at, okay, who do we have on the roster with D-Hop out, right? So we have Ridley in our system. Well, we know Ridley does a lot better versus man coverage versus zone coverage. So then how do we specify the rest of our offense to try and get the defense into man coverage, because the analytics has told us that's where we have the advantage. We also know that, Brian Callahan's coming out of the Bengals system. We know what they like to do with 11 personnel. We know that they have a shorter average depth of target than a lot of other teams out there. So we know we're going to be relying on the tight end a lot more, right? So now we know that Okonkwo is going to be a bigger piece of the offense. So then how do we supplement the loss of D-Hop by getting Okonkwo more targets, by getting Ridley into man coverage, and trying to really design our offensive philosophy around these weaknesses? And it's all informed by the type of data that we can look up.
And I was just going to say, and it's vital that your head coach and your whole coaching staff is open to that, right? If you have a closed off old school coach that's not willing to analyze the elements that are out there to help make decisions. We've said that time and again, even before we got into this spot where we all are with data as it pertains to player acquisition. When you're talking about player performance, athletic performance, right? We've been doing that for years now. Since I got in the league as a general manager in 08-09 is when we kicked off all the player tracking on the field, practice field, some, preseason games, and we watched that closely. It took a while for coaches to understand about load on the field. There are some coaches who would leave and say, don't you dare tell me how to run my team and my players as a GM. And I'd say, we have some amazing information here. Just look at it, work with it a little bit and see what data is telling you about how Julio Jones is 80% more apt to pull a hamstring if you run him 30% more of the reps, whatever it may be. There's so much great information out there to help. If you can get over the ego with some of the football people out there, and believe me, we all have them. I get it. We all have egos. I'll raise my hand on it. You just have to be understanding that there is another side to this. And I believe this. People, third parties like us, I believe we can take the good head coach to be very good and the very good to be a Hall of Famer. I think the same thing about GMs.
Well, and you have this list of general managers and front office people. I mean, Mike Mayock obviously is one of the more famous ones because of NFL Network, because of him just being with the Raiders. But what do these guys do for you? Like, when are they going out and scouting? Are they looking at data? What do they do?
So they are virtually scouting for us right now. Nowadays, you really don't have to go out on the field. Now, let me say that I'm an old school scout that way. I want to go out and sniff the proverbial pits, is what I say, because you need to be out there. You need to watch Blaine Bishop when he's out there moving around, and you're like, okay, man, let me see this cat. I'm not just looking at the number on the piece of paper. I need to be out there and watch this guy do what he needs to do. That is a big thing. But I think all of these guys are evaluating from afar. They're interacting, they're comparing, and then we're taking all of their subjective analysis, whether that's 5, 6, or 7 games. We grade 800 players every year on the college side, and we grade 2,200 players on the pro side. So that's 3,000 plus players. Sumer Scout is our product. It's a foundational product that we provide to the NFL, and semblance of that to the NCAA is what we're working on, of course. That is big, and then we combine it back to what Sean was saying with the objective side. Think about it this way. If you have an old school coach or GM who I know these 500 years of experience football players that Sumer Sports has. Great. I want to read what they have to say. I also want to see the line item beside it that is all analytics. What I also want to see, I want to see the combined. What I'd really love to do is see the, Tennessee Titans. There's their subjective. Right next to Sumer's subjective, right next to just the analytic, and then right next to the combined. When you start going down the line that way and you're comparing, it doesn't mean you're going to have the exact answer, Joe, but you're going to say, why are we 6.5 here with just our Tennessee Titans subjective? Sumer is a 6.8, and the full objective and subjective is a 7.5. Let's figure this out. using arbitrary numbers, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing I would say is like when we're designing these analytics, like because we're taking raw tracking data and it's just players moving around on the field. One of the things I think really sets us apart on the analytics side is we're building these metrics and then we come back to this 500 years of scouting experience and say, look, this is how we're grading this particular player, this particular position in this phase of the game. Are we doing things that make sense? Let's talk from the basic foundational assumption position, like where is the responsibility for this player on this play so that we can build something in an automated fashion so that now we can build metrics for college teams, because we're having to grade 12,000 players at once. You just can't do that. At an individual level. But if we can build the algorithms to harness that 500 years and build it into our analytics, now we have something that nobody else has. There are other analytics companies out there. There are other scouting companies out there. There's nobody that's marrying the two of them like Sumer is.
As we're joined right now, former Falcons general manager Thomas Dimitroff and Sean Clement here on 104.5 from Sumer Sports.
Well, Thomas or Sean, I was wondering if you guys targeted, I'm going to call them all-star games, like the Senior Bowl, East-West, to also give them data maybe 2 years ahead of time about certain players that maybe you guys already have kind of scattered, which you already are doing for NFL teams. So do you then, pitch it to the all-star games, or no, that's not part of it right now?
No, I mean, it's something that we're thinking seriously about it, right? We have so much data and availability to disseminate appropriately, and that's what we're looking at right now. Where are the next streams that we can be involved with? Whether it is, Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl, right? There's a lot of really good information there that they already have. Where could we take them to another level on it? No, Jim and I work together with the Patriots, so I do know.
Jim. Yeah.
This is such a this league, right? We're all tied in one way or another. But I will say this: you asked me this a little bit off air. I mean, when you think about a general manager in this league and making choices in this area, I look back on it 3 years ago when I was, when Dan Quinn and I first got fired in 20, and I was thinking, okay, what do I really want to do? Do I get back in? Do I become a consultant? Do I work my way back into a general manager or a presidential role? I will say categorically, the reason I'm here right now and I've not made my efforts to go back in is because I do believe in this wholeheartedly. I would never do this type of a job, or I would never promote this as I did if I didn't believe this is so cutting edge and it is so needed. And over the next 5 to 10 years in this league, if you don't jump on board, there's no way you're parlaying it to another contract, and you just won't survive in this business.
Well, Cronky on our F&M Bank chat wants to know if this can help him with fantasy football.
I'll let Sean take that.
Well, Cronky, if you go to sumersports.com, you will find a data section where you can look up things like, stats on all your favorite players, coverage units, defense, all of that to help you make your better decisions in your fantasy football league. So we're here for you, buddy.
Jokingly, I asked him that question.
I'm going here now and looking at it.
But one more, serious question, and, kind of testing my GM skills to see, the Falcons naturally signed Kirk Cousins, then they drafted Penix, right? Is that how you pronounce his name? Yeah, Penix. And I said, I thought it was a great move. A lot of people were laughing at it because I felt like now they're getting a security blanket, even though they guaranteed really the first 2 years of Cousins' deal. You don't know how, an older player will come back from an Achilles injury, and you don't know. And you're also at the same time developing a player, and you're looking at the next year's draft and say, if we're in this position next year, there's really not a guy high on the list. So you're looking forward. So what were your thoughts when you saw, being the former GM there at the Falcons, when they drafted Penix? What were your thoughts initially?
I mean, initially they were, hey, look, they've invested a lot of money in a quarterback in Kirk Cousins that they knew they were going to come in. I mean, I don't want to speak for Arthur Blank. I have a great relationship with him. I would say Arthur wants to win. And Arthur is willing. He always has been willing to give back to that community. And if it's $90 million for a year or two to get Penix to a spot where he takes it and thrives, great. However, no however negatively, but however, if all of a sudden Michael Penix is thriving and, we're waiting for Kirk Cousins to really heal totally, and this cat has 6 games under his belt and he's won 5 of them, that may be a pretty expensive backup quarterback. But again, Arthur's doing what is best he believes for the community and the fan base, and kudos to him that they moved through. I know Terry Fontenot, that was not an easy move to make, right? Because,
right. Oh, man, it would look serious. And
I believe, guys, I was there when we drafted Matt Ryan. They wanted us to draft the defense, they being the fan base, because it's a polarizing move. The fan base wanted us to draft the defensive tackle from LSU. I don't know if you guys are trivia guys and know who that was. I can't even remember who it was. It was a while ago. The reality is, if we didn't take Matt Ryan back then, first of all, I would have been fired the second year. I know that. That's just how it goes. Arthur Blank is a businessman, and if you're not winning there, it's time to leave. But anyway, we made the move to stay there with a quarterback. You go as your quarterback goes. Obviously, Michael Penix, even though he's a little bit older, even though he has some injuries, he has something that they really liked. They wouldn't have made that move if they didn't see something special there.
Yeah. Tough call when you sign a quarterback, though, and then you want your first rounder to play immediately in this day and age, and then he's not initially really not playing, hopefully, after signing Kirk Cousins.
Well, there's a no trade clause there as well, gentlemen, right? Which that's going to be interesting. He can override that, as I understand. So,
okay, before we let you go, one thing, it was Glenn Dorsey was the defensive tackle from LSU. I just looked it up.
I was going to say Spears.
It was Glenn Dorsey. And two, like, I'm a huge baseball analytics guy. And in fact, somebody just texted me going, "Who's that in the studio with you right now?" I was like, well, look, if I'm making a baseball comparison, this is Billy Beane, this is Jonah Hill. Like, those are the two that I'm saying. But with the baseball side, there's a war. Like, we talk about war all the time. Is there an answer to that with football? What is the war of football?
The war of football is war. So,
dude, that's not the answer. Like, what's the analytic?
You can't use the answer.
No, so what we have on the NFL side is a wins above replacement metric. It goes into all of the stuff that we use on the B2B side here at Sumer. When we are consulting with our clients, whether they're NCAA or they're in the NFL, the backbone of our analytics is wins above replacement. Now, we could get into a whole nother show on, like, what does replacement mean? How do we measure it? All these things. But the hardest part of doing football analytics is dividing the credit among the 22 different players on the field at a time. And I think what really sets us apart is when we start defining all these pieces that go into our analytics, that we're tapping into this 500 years of experience to make sure that we are actually measuring what a player was supposed to do, what they did, and did that, is that outcome skill? Is that outcome luck? How stable is it year over year? We're looking at all that kind of stuff. It's really fun work.
Well, we deeply appreciate it. We know you got to get out of here. The show for us is only wrapping up in a few minutes as well. So thank you guys absolutely so much for coming in. And this program that you guys have is beautiful. I mean, absolutely. And I did not know there was a website portion of this that has answers to it, because now I'm on that, and I've got a fantasy football draft coming up this weekend. So we're good.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a great article on there on explaining the kickoff rule too. I know that's on everybody's mind. So head to sumersports.com. We got articles for you, data for you, whatever you need.
You can even play with that on some of your gaming needs. So I'll just leave it at that.
No, we need you to do this with EA to fix the college football game. How about we do this, because they've got it all screwed up. So thank you. Yes, please. Okay, now thank you. All right, we'll be right back as we wrap up the show. Thomas Dimitroff, thank you so much. Sean Clement, thank you, and thank you for your service as well as a West Point guy. Thank you guys so much as we continue here on 104.5 The Zone.
You ever wonder why so many pro athletes go and use stem cell therapy? Because it works. I'm Ron Slade, retired 14-year pro basketball player, and I needed to get this done. After I went through my entire career riddled with injuries, I needed therapy, so I went to Clement Stem Cell Institute out in Franklin. Why? Because they're the stem cell specialists. They can be yours too. They're the stem cell specialists of the Tennessee Titans. You know why? Because it works.
Make an appointment today with Clement Stem Cell Institute.
Hey, Tennessee, summer is in full swing, and Cool Ray's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun and the sun. We've got sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing. Because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a hot summer day. And Cool Ray also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. And right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on making memories. So call today and take advantage of those scorching hot deals. Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee summer. So visit coolray.com or just give us a call now at 615, of course, 570-0900. That's 570-0900. Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plummet right, and always lights bright.
Definitely appreciate Thomas Dimitroff as well as Sean Clement for stopping by with us before they head over to the Renaissance Hotel for their presentation for Sumer Sports. As look, and we only mentioned Mike Mayock, Blaine, as far as one of these scouts and former general managers they have. The amount of talent that he was talking about, what did he say, 300 years of NFL service that he has that's on this, it is absolutely amazing to see. But like Mike Mayock, Rod Graves, who was in Arizona, Phil Emery, who was not only in Chicago, but also in Atlanta as well. So there is a ton of talent here as we continue and as we wrap up here on 104.5 The Zone. Let me ask you real fast before we go, do you have any major pet peeves when it comes to going to events?
What kind of event?
Just any event. Like, you going somewhere, you're out like, First Horizon, you're over at Nissan, maybe you're at Bridgestone, and it's just a pet peeve that somebody just does
not really. I'm not a pet peeve guy. Like my wife is, but I'm not. It's like, okay, that maybe they had a bad day or what, I just keep moving. I can't let something get my day ruined because of somebody else craziness. So I'm not really, I don't know where you're going, but I'm not really a pet peeve guy, maybe.
Well,
you know what my pet peeve is?
What?
Someone driving slow in the fast lane. That's probably my biggest one.
You and Dawn.
That's probably my biggest one.
So here's mine, okay? Because over the weekend, we were at Bridgestone for the monster truck, the Hot Wheels blow party.
Yeah.
It was awesome. First off, it's so extremely cool because they turned the lights off to do that. And as they're doing the lights off, the different monster trucks have lights all on them outlining the trucks so you can see this in the dark. It's really extremely cool to have. But my pet peeve is if you're going to get on the mic and you're the MC in the middle of the arena and you're in front of 7,000 people and you're going to mention somebody from Nashville, can you please at least say their name right?
Oh, no, they got to get that right. Who did they say? They couldn't pronounce it right?
So one of the MCs is walking around, is like, man, I love Nashville. Morgan Wallen is my favorite artist.
Oh.
No, it's not Morgan Wallen. Yeah. If you're going to fake this and you're going to at least say it, then you say Morgan Wallen. You at least say the name right.
Maybe he got nervous.
He's like the guy that travels with them. Like it was like the smallest crowd that they were going to have the whole night. Don't say Morgan Wallen like you know what's happening.
Oh, my.
Like when I'm sitting here right now and I'm saying that, we have tickets to give away for this Saturday to Bridgestone Arena, I'm going to say the name right. It's Chris Stapleton. That's the way you say his name. It's not hard to say. So what I am saying at the moment is be caller number 5 right now for a pair of tickets to go see Chris Stapleton at Bridgestone Arena coming up this Saturday, 615-737-1045. And you will be a winner to go watch Chris Stapleton this weekend at Bridgestone. See, it's not hard to say the artist name, right?
Yeah.
It's not hard at all.
Well, he had a little snafu.
It is, and it was bad. It was embarrassing. But outside of that, amazing. Monster trucks, man. It was so much fun. I appreciate everybody that
But you
also
came back down here on Saturday.
do what?
It's Saturday, right?
Oh yeah. I brought the whole family up. My son started kindergarten today.
Oh.
So we made a little trip up here. We took him to go see the monster trucks. We went down into the pits. We got to meet all the drivers, everything like that. Like, he had a blast. He even went to school today, and he told his kindergarten teacher, Saturday, I got to see all these big trucks smash all these cars on the interstate in Nashville. It wasn't the interstate. That would have caused a major issue.
Oh my. That didn't hit your pet peeve list?
No, that didn't, because that was just adorable.
Yeah.
No, when you're a 28-year-old and you're over here trying to talk about how your favorite artist is from Nashville, you get the name right. Yeah. It's not like he was saying some random artist. It's not like it's a guy that hasn't had 10 number 1 hits in the last year. Yeah. All right, with that being said, 3HL coming up next. But in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.